class, and he is here to answer. It's GMT's Ask a Lawyer segment. It's back.
Good Morning Texas starts right now.
From WFAA TV, the spirit of Texas. This is Good Morning Texas in high definition.
It's one of our favorite segments, and it's back. It's our GMT's Ask a Lawyer segment. We asked you, the viewers, to write in with what questions you'd like answered, and attorney Doug Uloth is here with your free legal advice. Doug, how are you today?
Well, good morning, Amy.
Good morning. You know, we asked for these questions on Facebook over the past few weeks. We got a lot of emotionally driven questions. So let's get to the first one. This one states, my ex-fiance has some belongings of mine and is claiming that since I gave her my mattress in a moment of vulnerability, that it's hers now, but I want it back. What can I do if I have the receipt? What do you say to this, Doug?
Well, this is a problem that's common to a lot of North Texans. I think the most high-profile example of that is when this singer Jessica Simpson gave a $100,000 boat to her then-boyfriend Tony Romo, and then they broke up very shortly thereafter.
Did she ask for the boat back?
She did not, and I think that puts her in the same category as where this particular viewer is going to end up being. Is the operative word in his statement or his question is gave. He's already acknowledging that he gave the mattress to the girlfriend, and that's part of the Texas law. Is the intent to give is what determines whether or not something is given. You also have to have the person accept it and deliver it to them, but he's already admitted the intent, so I think probably...
Yeah, you said in your email, I gave her. Now, if you said, I lent her a mattress that was supposed to be hers for 6 months, she would have had a fight. And the receipt doesn't even matter at this point, right?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, all right, interesting. Let's get to the second question. What are the laws pertaining to cohabitation in Texas? Does the boyfriend have any rights in the event of a breakup? The house, land, vehicle bought prior to moving in? And what is a common law marriage too and cohabitation? What are the laws there?
Well, common law marriage, or informal marriage, is what they now call it generally, is where there's a Texas statute in the family code that lets someone who has intent to marry file a declaration with the county clerk, or it can happen informally by letting people know that you're calling yourselves husband and wife, referring to each other Mr. and Mrs., filing legal documents indicating you're married. Living in Texas and actually kind of presenting yourself as married, you can become married that way with all of the attendant formalities of what they call a ceremonial marriage. So that's the key point. As long as you have not done those things, property that's bought is going to stay separate property belonging to the individual. A good example of that is recently, I think in January, you had a marriage between Kanye, or not a marriage, not yet, but Kanye West.
Cohabitation.
Cohabitation is cohabiting with Kim Kardashian in an $11 million house that they've purchased together.
Right.
And it will stay in whatever manner they purchased it. In Texas, California law is very similar. That's where their house is.
Okay, so but when you talk about if you present yourself as married and if you call each other your spouse, even if you're not, that can be legally binding. So say like your Facebook status says you're married just because you've been partners with somebody for 7, 8, 10 years, that could be legally binding that you have common property, and in case of a split, it's 50-50?
It is a significant piece of evidence that would be considered because you're holding yourself out as married. If the house that you're dealing with or the property was purchased while you're married, there'll be a presumption that you were buying it as community property.
Facebook is the source. It's the treasure trove for a lot of these legal cases. Am I right?
It is. Lawyers very much like Facebook right now.
Oh, wow. All right, guys. All right, let's get to the third one, which is an employment question. What legal questions can a possible employer ask you on an interview? I'm guessing we're talking, how many kids do you have? Are you married? Are you single? I'm guessing you can't directly ask those questions?
You can't, and employment questions like that are very difficult because the person who is in there for the interview wants the job. Yeah. So it's very unlikely that they're going to immediately confront the person who's interviewed them, say, you know, that's an improper question, you can't ask me that.
Right.
So what employment lawyers generally recognize or recommend is they tell people to try to figure out what they're really asking and answer that question than the one they're asking, to try to steer the interview a bit, because you're not allowed to ask questions about national origin, race, religion, gender, disability, health-related problems, but those questions are usually targeted at trying to find out whether you're you're going to be a problem employee. And what many lawyers recommend is to find out what problem you think that they're trying to get to and then directly address that with them as a means of solving that issue.
But it's total, I mean, it is asked indirectly. I feel like that does happen. And again, your Facebook status, don't you think that that's why they say, you know, they have access to your Facebook account and social media sometimes. They want to see what pictures you're posting and who you're hanging out with and what your family is like and all of your interests. I think that's also used in the hiring process.
Amy, that's correct. The statistics recently indicate that at least 60% of employers look at Facebook information. They sometimes ask you for the password, and right now there's no regulation nationally to prevent that, although 6 states have passed laws that would restrict that.
What's the takeaway today, Doug?
Well, the takeaway is legal problems are like health problems. If you ignore them, they're not going to go away, and generally they're going to get worse. So the best thing you can do is to try to stick or go first and attend to the problem when you first recognize it, before emotions come in, before money comes in.
Before you're fighting over a mattress, because then the legal thing, then it's money. Just, you know, the more emotions that leak in, it's expensive when the problems get bigger.
It will, and emotions drive how much people fight. And if you solve the problem early, they'll fight less and you'll spend less.
Doug, you laugh. Thank you so much for being here today and answering our questions.